જેની વાતે ધીનામ અવિત્રવતો.
Good morning. Still morning. Okay. We are talking about methods of communication. Before that, let's go to the basic term of communication. What do you mean by it? I am sure all of you have studied it.
Yes.
Now, when I say we are having a communication right now, what is it happening exactly? Can somebody answer? Interaction, yes. Okay. So, which means you are implying there are two people. There can't be an interaction with, unless the second person is present. So, we are having communication, we are having an interaction, and in the interaction, what is happening is it is transmitting the message, giving information. Okay. Can be expressing your feelings, it can be your emotions. All that together will go into communication. And we have also studied earlier that when we talk of communication, we think of at least two elements, sender and receiver, and only when the receiver gets the message and understands it and gives back the feedback, we say the process of communication is complete. So in the entire process of communication, we feel the feedback is very important. Also, when the message has been given from the sender to the receiver, the medium that is chosen to give the message, that is very, very important. And now when we are talking about the medium, we are referring to the methods of communication. Broadly speaking, when we talk of methods of communication, we say this verbal communication or non-verbal communication. Now when we talk of verbal communication, again it's a very rough definition. We say when language is being used to express, it is verbal communication, as you can see. And whenever we don't use the language, whenever we have communication without using the words, it becomes non-verbal communication. Now, which are the times or which are the experiences from your day-to-day life when we are communicating without the words? Can you give me an example?
Signboard.
Ready?
Signboard.
Signboards, yes. We see very often signboards on the road or the traffic. Yes. Anything else? When you talk to your friend also, sometimes you may not speak, but yet you are communicating. How do you do? Actions. So you make gestures. Yeah. Your simple basic expressions. When you meet a friend, you say, "Aaj mood nahi hai kya?" Why do you say that? Are you not in a good mood? So you can make out from the facial expression of that person.
Yes.
Right? So there are so many things which are happening along with your verbal communication. And that is all non-verbal communication, what we are talking about. And even when we say we are having verbal communication, in verbal communication we have got spoken communication and written communication. And when we talk of spoken communication, non-verbal communication is an integral part of spoken communication as well. Because when I say I am speaking, I am using the words. Words don't have just the literal meaning. There are so many additional shades, okay, which the words receive with my tone, with my expressions, okay, with my eye contact. There is a different impression with the same words spoken by different people. Okay, many times parents complain that if we say it, the child doesn't listen. The friends tell, immediately there is an impact. Now, why does it happen? Of course, there are different other psychological angles also to it, the perception angle, because you don't relate with your parents because of the generation gap, etc. So when your friends tell you, you are more convinced. That is one part. But the other part, very important part, is the way things are told to you. I think this way of telling things is all about, non-verbal communication, and which form a very important part of spoken communication and the effect of spoken communication. When we talk of oral communication, as I said, words are used, and along with that we are talking about the intonation, the register, and it all will be related to the different objectives of spoken communication. We are using spoken communication to inform, to motivate, to appreciate, and depending on the motive, okay, we'll have different kind of vocabulary and different ways of communicating with people. Now, when we talk of effectiveness of using any language, what do we mean by that? We are talking about rich vocabulary, we talk of command of sentence structures, your clarity in thinking, which is very important. I think that should be first in fact before any communication. And also focus on the audience, which is very, very important. Know your audience, they say, for any communication. And if you look at the salesmen, I think they're the best people who know their audience and they change their arguments, okay, as per the person with whom they are talking to. Okay, with one person it can be a different argument, with another person it can be a different argument. You experience it with your day-to-day hawkers on the streets. You go to the shop to buy a shirt or a dress and you see immediately how they make out what you like and accordingly they start making their arguments. It is not what they say is the thing, It is depending on the customer every time. So this is one very important thing one has to remember in the whole process of communication, knowing your audience and accordingly making the arguments. Now when we talk about verbal communication skills, just we'll run through this as a background. We talk about writing, speaking, reading and listening. Now this is about the professionals. There was a survey and it talks about the different percentage, how much time one spends, and in that you can see listening actually is done for maximum amount of time, and unfortunately it is hardly taught and studied. This again refers to the same factor, the different skills. We talked about their importance and the order of teaching. So from this we should learn which are the skills we need to really improve. Okay, here we are looking at the characteristics of verbal communication first. We talk of language, how it is complex, how it uses different words, and how it is capable of development and growth. As you know, along with the growth of human civilization, we have a parallel growth of language. In the Stone Age, people did have evolution of language, but they were basic words, basic vocabulary. And more advanced civilizations will illustrate more and more advanced languages. For example, if you look at the languages all over the world, you have languages like Latin, languages like Greek, languages like Sanskrit and Tamil. Okay, these are some of the most advanced languages because the civilizations were advanced in those times. Okay. Now when we talk of oral communication, there are certain limitations of space, limitations of time, and in written communication we are getting the advantage of overcoming these. Because you can read a book which is written 1000 years ago probably, if you can manage to preserve it. So there is no limitation of time or space. Now already you are familiar with the characteristics of oral and written communication. Depending on their nature, we have some plus and minuses. Like the speed can be more in oral communication, record can be maintained with the written communication, precision and accuracy is achieved again with the written communication more than oral communication. I don't say oral communication cannot be precise. It has to be precise in fact in some situations like meetings, presentations, but yet there can be an element where rectification is possible, which is not possible in case of written communication. So you will find the amount of accuracy is much more in written communication. The cost factor again is more with written communication. Now when we talk of non-verbal communication, I think this is one of the most important factors, what we call as the body language. And it is very difficult to define really, but very easy to understand. As is written here, in oral communication also we are using the body language, which is giving additional shades of meaning. Okay, and along with body language we also have the quality of the voice, the way we use our voice, etc. At the same time, the way you stand, the very posture, when the speaker is facing the audience, it is giving a certain message to the audience, and usually it is not wrong. Okay, it can make out whether the person is confident or nervous. Okay, whether the person is not interested. Okay, suppose is compelled to give a lecture, he is coming and giving a lecture. You can make it out, through the body language. Or whether the person is taking interest in the subject, interest in the students, because the audience is again very, very important. These factors are strongly reflected in the body language, in the way you give the eye contact, in the way you give the facial expressions. Okay? So in the entire communication, according to me, the most important factor, first factor is eye contact, which is also part of body language. And second, you can say body language, which is again including everything, your posture, your body movements, the gestures that you use, because sometimes there can be very stiff gestures, sometimes people can have very open gestures. So you can make out to some extent the personal traits from these things. Now when we talk of, coming back to oral communication, we are talking about the facial expressions used to give the feedback, okay, which is again a very important factor of body language and a non-verbal communication. Now coming back to non-verbal communication, we already defined it. It is a communication independent of language, where we are not using the words per se, at the same time using gestures, expressions, etc. Now this is just one example. What gesture you can use? It is slapping the hand on the table. Can we emphasize the point? There are so many other gestures we use, and in communication, without communication, and so on. Now at times words can be deceptive, but not the body language. One very simple example is, if you have a small child who just had a chocolate from the fridge without the knowledge of the mother, and if the mother asks, did you have a chocolate? You say no. But you are sure he had one, because it's not giving an eye contact at that time. Okay, whenever you are lying, it is very difficult unless you are very expert liars to give an eye contact, look straight into the eyes and lie to somebody. I think it is very difficult. Okay. So this is the additional factor. Even the words can be deceptive, but not the body language. Now usually we will say body language is involuntary. Okay, we are not conscious. I don't decide I'm going to stand like this, or after 1 minute I'm going to move here. Okay, it is all happening involuntarily, and usually it will be without the you can say consciousness of the person. And also it is difficult to control. You may be able to control, let's say, for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Maybe somebody has told me to stand like this and don't move. I may do it for 2 minutes with great efforts, but not beyond that point. If I have to communicate, my whole body is involved in it. So, whatever are my natural body movements, whatever are my natural gestures, they are going to happen. So, it becomes only a very conscious thing. If at all somebody has asked you that you are not supposed to do any body movements, I think in NCC you have to do it. Left, right, and no other movement. Okay. And so many other things. I used to find it very troublesome. Because of course, each you can say movement or each group, they have their own requirements. When you are talking about armies and navies and all, they need that kind of training. But otherwise, if you think of the civil life, I find it very tiresome, because it is just putting everybody in one mode, that uniformity. As far as the variety of communication is concerned, I think it totally masks it, according to me. Anyway, this is the point already we talked about, how non-verbal methods will help you to improve the oral communication, because they are part of it many times. Now we will talk about the visual non-verbal methods, which can also be used along with written communication. Just now we talked about the body language, which can be a part of oral communication. Now here we have the visual aids, which can be a part of written communication as well. So this is the example of non-verbal communication used in verbal communication, and particularly in written communication. You are using, I think, ample amount of maps, charts or graphs. How do you think they help you? Can anybody answer? In economics, you may have a graph, or in so many other subjects. You have population graph. Okay, you have the year, the population, and you get a graph which is rising, obviously. So, what is the advantage of reading the graphs or having the graphs?
By one side, we can find what is it result.
Okay. So, the result is easy to comprehend in one glance. That is the main advantage of any visual communication when we are using in verbal communication. Somebody had answered right in the beginning, the signboards. Okay, so you have different signboards. As you enter the campus, you find some signboards right, left. You have the title of the building written. Or even without the words, you have the traffic signals. Okay, traffic signs. So all these things convey a lot of meaning and which has again multiple advantages. The traffic signs, for example, no parking or no left turn, no right turn. Okay, it solves the problems in a country like India of illiterate people, also multilingual people. So if you use one language, maybe the other person doesn't understand that language. That problem is solved because you are using a sign. Okay. It can happen also with the posters. You have several posters for social awareness, for public awareness. You have found posters on alcoholism, or posters on drug addiction, on AIDS. So poster will be a combination of picture and verbal communication. So a combination of non-verbal and verbal communication when they become complementary. So only words may not be so effective, but when you have the picture, okay, it gives a, you can say, a message in a more effective way and has more impact on the audience. So again the same factor, I have illustrated with the example of the film. You read a story, you read a novel and you watch a film. Okay, sometimes the impact can be much more with the movie. Okay, of course it depends, and there are debates over it. Some people argue when you are reading a novel, you are using your own imagination to create that, to create the character, etc. But at the same time, one cannot deny the effect of the audiovisual media, like a movie also. And there have been movies like which have created history. In the recent times, I remember movies like Chak De, and then you have movies like Lagan, okay, which have given very strong messages of nationalism. You had a movie like Three Idiots, which made people rethink, over the whole education system. And several issues I think are handled beautifully in that. Generation gap, issues of friendships, and speaking truth, not speaking truth. Like this guy speaks in the interview, whatever was the truth, and yet that person gets impressed. So I think several issues were handled in a very beautiful manner. And if somebody has to write about this, it will be like giving a sermon, okay, of morals and immorals, and that can be very boring. But the same message was given in the movie in a very effective manner. So when we talk of non-verbal communication, I think one can illustrate this impact of visuals very well with the movies because it's a very familiar example, and it also combines the pictures and the sound. Both, of course, words are there, but you will find so many scenes in the movie where even without speaking the words, with the mere expression, the characters are conveying so much. Okay, so that can be a beautiful example of the non-verbal communication. We also talk about music track. Okay, there are several music tracks. One was taken training in the classical music would know you have concept in the Indian classical music, concept of ragas, and each rag is supposed to be sung at a particular hour of the day, and it is supposed to create a particular impact. Okay, it's a very scientific concept. So just with the music, sound combinations, the sound tracks, you have the different ragas produced, and they're fixed. The notes are fixed. It can be produced by anybody else also. Okay. So these are again slightly going out of the framework of non-verbal communication. But yes, we can say these are also examples of non-verbal communication because something is communicated to and something definite is communicated to through different sound patterns. Okay. Again, here we are talking about the signboards, what we spoke earlier. I have given the example of a skull and crossbones used. You see it where? Outside the electricity boards, mainly any danger sign basically. But more commonly you must have seen outside the electricity boards. So again it is helping you to overcome the barrier of language also, at the same time giving you the message. Then one more very important factor in communication is color. When we talk of the visual impact. When we are talking about all these earlier examples, we talked about the posters, we talked about the movies. In all these, colors are definitely used purposely. Okay. So it becomes a very important and powerful means of communication. You have the cosmetic industry, while making the advertisements also, they are very conscious of the color. If you are watching the television ads also, I don't know how many of you watch it very carefully. but you will find color becomes one very important factor in it. You will find that it's a complete color scheme. The clothes they wear, the color of the product, okay. And there is a significance why particular colors are used for particular products. Okay. Now, if we have the available color scheme here in this audiovisual room, maybe we can try out, we can request Vikrant to use it if possible. So, when we talk of colors associated with different moods, okay, you know there are different colors and which have very strong association. Like we talked about the red color. The moment we have red color, what impact do you get or what mood is created? What is your impression? Anger? Yes. Love? Yes, definitely. You have green color. So green color reminds you of nature basically. So I think it is soothing to the eyes probably. Yeah, we have the green color right now. Okay. See the impact? The entire room. Okay, any different color we should try? Okay, Vikrant, can we have a different color? You want us to have the green color impact, I think. Okay. So, if you have any other color like white color for example, white color is indication of peace. Okay, also purity.
Yeah.
You get a kind of a serene atmosphere. Calm. Yes. Anything else?
Honesty.
Honesty? Okay. That is interesting. No, but yes, I think this shows how you have your interpretations with the colors. So definitely, whenever you have any particular color, it can be for the interior designing, it can be your clothes, okay, which you are using, but that also is giving a message to other person, which means, okay. So when we say colors are associated with different moods and they have a psychological effect, so these are the effects we have. You know, sometimes you find something very gloomy, you find something very bright or something very pleasant. Okay. I personally like, blue color, I feel it is more pleasant, at the same time little peaceful. Okay, sometimes some colors may have mixed effects. Okay. And it depends again on the perceptions of the people. You find in the wedding ceremonies in India, interestingly, okay, so many colors are used. Everybody is happy, obviously, in the wedding ceremony, there is no doubt about it. So mood is common. But yet, you find in the north, red color is used. Okay, you find in Maharashtra and the south, I think green color is used more frequently for the bride. If you go to Kerala, interestingly, they use a white sari for a wedding. And for North Indian, it will be absolutely atrocious if you are using a white color. Okay, in the wedding, you can't imagine a bride in the white. So there are different associations which are also culture generated sometimes, culture specific. Again, in the Christian weddings, you have white gown for the wedding, okay, and they find it absolutely alright because as we said, white, they associate it with the serene mood or purity. Okay, so that is their color for the wedding, and which may not be accepted in many parts of India, I am sure. So sometimes these are culture specific as well. Okay, though we say color has specific connotations, there can be different connotations for the same color in different countries or across the cultures. Now coming back to your other visual factors like diagrams, graphs and charts, what we mentioned. We talk about representing statistical information through graphs and charts, which will be again a combination of verbal and non-verbal communication. Okay, and there can be a variety of ways in which this can be made, which gives a lot of scope for your creativity as well. You remember the child doing many projects, okay, making many posters and charts. Sometimes you feel, why are we made to do it? But I think there is a purpose. Now, although many times parents are given that job, that's another story. But basically, why children are encouraged to do these kind of projects is I think they are introduced, to using these various means, using non-verbal means, using colors, using diagrams, having these visual impacts, what impact it creates really, and how one can combine it. Also, I think it helps to memorize, if I am not mistaken. When you have the charts, when you have a classification, when you have the diagrams, especially for subjects like science, biology, you imagine the anatomy of the heart. It's very difficult if you just read a paragraph and try to recollect. It is very easy when you have a diagram before you and you can see the structure of the heart and it becomes very easy. Okay. So that can be one major use when we talk of diagrams and graphs and charts. Any simple pictures, any simple drawings, we have in brochures, we have advertisements. Each company will have their own logo, which also will be significant, as you know. If you can think of any logos of any companies, okay, sometimes there will be a bird flying, okay, sometimes there can be hands closed, okay, which says to namaste, to greet somebody. So many things can be used as logos very creatively, depending on what kind of company it is, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is travel agency, okay. So these are also brilliant uses of non-verbal communication. Coming back to body language, why I am repeating it is, I want to tell you how it is universal, number one, and how it is an important part of your personality as well. Although we talked about body language earlier in connection with oral communication, I want to discuss it once again because besides the spoken word also, it has a very dominating influence in the interaction between two people because it communicates much more than words, okay? And emotionally it is expressive. By omnipresent you mean it is universally present, okay? So everybody will have some kind of body language. You may say a person is stiff, even that is describing a body language. Some person is very expressive. Some person may have lots of gestures, okay? So there can be different ways, and it also reflects your inner self, what is most important and what people don't realize. When we talk of analyzing a body language, it is almost analyzing a person many a times. It is analyzing the personality in total, okay? So when you are having any dealings, even the business dealings, one of my friends interestingly told me this factor, that when he went for a deal and everything was already actually made sure by his subordinate and he almost had to finalize it, but at the last minute he just felt that this person is not alright, okay, to trust, because it was a business of crores of rupees, it was a big deal, and he just backed out and he got a firing from his boss when he came back. He said, what was the reason? He said, I can't tell you the reason. So how can you expect a boss to accept this? Okay, when you are giving such kind of an answer, I can't give you the reason and simply deny this kind of a deal. But later on, it so happened somebody else had dealing with that party and they were treated very badly. Okay, and then after that, this person goes and tells the boss, this was it. I felt this person is not trustworthy. Okay, from the way he was talking, from the way he was looking at me, but it was very difficult to explain. But that message was very strong. Okay, so body language is not something just to study and forget, or just to think, just to make your personality impressive. It can be practically useful in various situations. By interacting with any person, in fact, if you can study the body language very well, whatever the person speaks also becomes secondary. Okay, your perceptions become so powerful that you can analyze the person. Now, when it comes to your own self, if you ask me now, okay, you are talking, this is about body language. I want to have a good impression. I feel I should have a good personality. Now, what should I do to improve my body language? Do you have any answer? Superficially, one can improve. You can improve if you are making too loud gestures, okay, you can cut down on that because it can be distracting at times. If you are not giving smile at all, and you learn the importance of giving a smile, so you will learn, okay, everybody comes, you should have a smile on your face. And you'll find the best of the popular people all over the world are the people like you who smile maximum. Okay? So it doesn't cost you anything, so smile always. So these can be some things we can improve upon. Maybe you can improve on your walking style, you can improve on your posture, or you sit straight, etc. I mean, these are simple tips. Even after all this, something is lacking. And what is lacking is yourself. Unless you improve yourself, your body language cannot really improve, cannot really become impressive. If inside you always feel you are not confident enough, I can't do this, okay, I am not worthy of doing it. If you have this kind of feeling, whatever outer gestures you improve, whatever your walking style you improve, the message is going to go all the time to the other person, sorry, this person is not confident. So, there are some very crucial things one needs to improve. When we talk of non-verbal communication, when we talk of body language and non-verbal communication, or when we talk of giving an eye contact, it is not as easy as it sounds technically. It's very easy to explain. Give an eye contact to everybody. If I am standing in this classroom, each person should feel I am looking at him. So you do it. But how you do it, if you just technically move from ear to ear without actually looking at that person, it is not going to have that impact. And to give eye contact to any person in any interaction, even if it is one to one, you will find very few people can really face the eyes of the other person. It doesn't staring. Please don't try from tomorrow. Okay, we have to give eye contact, so go and stare. That is not the idea. The idea is, if you have your conscious clear, you can give a very good eye contact. That is what I meant. Okay. And for that, you have to really work hard. It is not easy to have your conscience clear. Because which means answering to your own self what wrong things you have done, what good things you have done. Promising yourself that I am going to improve on these wrong things. Promising yourself that okay, I have got this thing to do in my life. I am definitely going to be somebody. I am going to use this life what God has given to me for a good cause. You will find people whom you find impressive are usually the people who have this kind of agenda inside them and they are following it to the best of their self-conscious. Okay, I won't say everybody is perfect, anybody is perfect for that matter, but at least one should try for the perfection. And that effort is very important and realization is very important. Now when we talk of the technicalities, now this was a little going philosophical, now let's come to the technicalities. When you talk of non-verbal communication, there are also certain biological, physical elements. Okay, so this we are talking some gestures, some body shapes, some features. Okay, so these are some inherent factors which you can't really do much. Then there are some habitual things again because of the environment. You will find the cold regions, people wearing jackets, lot of clothes. So because of that, sometimes the movement becomes stiff. There is a tropical weather. You will find Indians, for example, if you compare with the Britishers, we are having more gestures. Okay, it's because of the clothing. One factor is because of the clothing. So there can be some habitual things. Even speaking styles, phrases sometimes do occur because of the geographical situations. Within India, fortunately, we get this wide picture within one country. I don't think such a picture you can get in any other country. You go to Punjab, see the territory. You go to Kerala, you go to Madhya Pradesh, you go to Maharashtra, you go to Bengal. There is so much of variety, and historically also there are so many different experiences what people have had. For example, Punjab has always been war struck in the borderline area. So whatever the mental traits, okay, they get developed. The vocabulary that gets developed, okay. It is very interesting. One of my friends has done a lot of research on this, historical backgrounds, the language and the phrases what people use. So they become more bold, sometimes you find they become more outspoken, okay. And attitude to life also sometimes changes with all these experiences. And these become, some genetic patterns. Not that today there is any difference really speaking, but yes, somewhere if you talk about it even today, yes. If it was there is an attack on the country, first states which will be affected are the border states, for all said and done. Okay. So somewhere in the psychology these factors remain. So when we talk of non-verbal communication and all these cultural habitual factors, okay, social conduct, there are so many environmental factors, there are so many historical factors, so many cultural factors which we rarely look into actually. One of my Sindhi friends, once a very good friend, and we were just joking with the Sindhis, and they say they're stingy and they're very business minded. So he said, don't get offended, but if my father talks to you, his first hand stories of the partition experience, how they are totally uprooted from the place. You imagine, you are here today and tomorrow in some different geographical area and you don't have anything except for the clothes you are wearing. It's such a terrible feeling, such a sense of loss. So that actually affects the psychology. So for them there was no other alternative but to earn money. How do you survive otherwise? You go to a different region. don't have anybody whom you know, and don't have anything what you are carrying with you. Sometimes even within the same family, even family members are lost. So it's a psychological loss also, not just the physical loss. So with all these mental attitudes, okay, you have your language also sometimes getting affected, the phrases getting affected, and at the same time, even your non-verbal communication sometimes you'll find, okay, there are very, very deep-rooted factors than what we see normally. We already talked about the body language being conscious and unconscious, and I said most of our body languages are conscious basically, naturally. Any human being, you look at a child, see how they are moving freely, see their movements. They jump when they are happy, or they immediately cry if they don't get something. Okay, this is what we are, all of us, natural human beings. But then we are made into so-called natural, civilized human beings. Okay, I don't deny that it is required for some basic level of human behavior exchange, etc., and whatever we call the decency. But with the conscious movement, the postures, voice modulations, we have to train ourselves. Okay, this is a formal situation, so you have to train yourself, to be seated like this, to talk like this, etc. So this is the conscious, you can say, body language, what all of you are using. But even in that conscious body language, there is going to be individual variation for all said and done. I strongly believe myself, it's my personal opinion, which may be true or may not be true, but I believe that up to a certain limit only one can cultivate the body language or cultivate the gestures, etc. Somewhere there is a very strong individual element and which is going to be seen, and I think it should be seen that it's the beauty of human beings because each person is different from the other. Otherwise, what is the difference? I mean, each person behaves in the same way, talks in the same way, laughs in the same way. Imagine how boring life would be. You have some friends at whom you laugh at their expressions, you laugh at their whatever things, So you should be thankful to them, and you also should know that even within you there will be some elements which are not liked by somebody or made fun by somebody, etc., etc. So in short, jokes apart, there is a lot of variation basically with human beings, and I think it should be there. And non-verbal communication or body language, I think, is the best example of that variation basically. When we talk of again analyzing body language part by part, appearance will be the first part. Then you have your clothes and accessories which give an impression. So in any formal communication like interviews, we pay a lot of attention to this part, clothing and accessories, because that is going to give the impression to the other person and which can be decided for the job. Already we talked about the posture, and you see the different messages that you get with the posture. Somebody is sitting, leaning the back, somebody is sitting forward, okay, hands, different movements, okay, on the same chair, how people are sitting, it can be in different ways, and each style is giving some kind of meaning. It's just to summarize the whole concept of body language, your facial expressions, the smile we talked about, the eye contact, the different gestures, and this is one part I did not speak earlier, but you will agree with me, what is the energy level of a person? Okay, that decides actually the enthusiasm level, okay, that also decides the productivity and the efficiency of a person. So what is your energy level? You should ask yourself. Now this is true about studying, this is true about any other enjoying, like going for picnic, going for movies. You see you're sitting in a group and one person gets up and says, let's go for this movie, let's go for this. So you can see that high energy level. Okay. The only thing is it should be seen everywhere, not just in going for movies and picnics. So you can use it. I mean, it is there, but maybe you are not using it. You have to divert it in various directions. And how you use that energy level, I think that also decides your body language and gives the message. The space that we use, okay, when two people are sitting, in between what is the space and how comfortable you are with that space. This is one factor we never think of. There can be physical space, there can be psychological space. When I talk to you in the first meeting itself, I start asking you, okay, how many siblings you have, how much you have, and how is your mother, how is your father, do you like your mother, do you like your father? You will suddenly start feeling, what is it, this is my personal life. Why is she asking me all these questions? That will be your immediate reaction. Your neighbors come and they start asking you, घर में कौन है, क्या है? Okay, maybe you don't like it. Now this all depends again. What is your concept of that space? There may be people who like it. And they assume it, their neighbor है, पूछेंगे. Okay, so let them ask. My neighbor will come and ask me about my family. This is their right to ask. At some places they may not like it. Because the concept of space, the concept of privacy will again differ. From person to person, it also differs from culture to culture. Then the time factor, how you look at it, the time given, time following. If it is 11 o'clock, is it 11 o'clock? It is 11:05, it is 11:30, or it's 12 o'clock. Thoda late ho gaya, and slightly late you say, even if you are 1 hour late. So that also gives an impression, and it also indirectly becomes a factor of the non-verbal communication. This I'll just touch upon what you mean by paralanguage. This means aspects of the spoken word. Already we mentioned it in brief while talking about oral communication. But in all spoken communication, one has to scientifically analyze these factors, and whenever you are the professionals like actors, anchors, compares, they have to really work out on these things. What is the volume in which I should speak? What is the pitch? There is a high or low note. If you talk about it scientifically. The speed with which you say the words. Every human being has different speed. You feel some people speak very fast, some people speak very slow. So what should be the common, you can say, speed used for any formal communication? In personal communication, to some extent it is excusable. Okay, then the pronunciation, very important. The accepted way of delivering the word. Although to some extent variation is permissible, there has to be some standard pronunciation which you have to follow. Now you will say these are parts of language where we are discussing a non-verbal communication, but it becomes an important part of non-verbal communication because the way you are using language with all these external elements, okay, speaking fast, speaking low, that is again creating a lot of impression on the audience. Okay, that's why we are also including these factors while considering the non-verbal communication. Along with that, you have the accent that you use, the intonation, that is the sound pattern of sentences, the stress that you give on each syllable of words. If I say I am late today, so you are stressing on the word late. If you say I am late, so it is I who is stressed. And see how completely the meaning changes. If you come late to the lecture, if the teacher says why are you late, it's a very casual tone. Why are you so late? So you are stressing that late. You are always late. So you get stressed. Right? So completely the meaning gets changed, as you can see, with simple stress changing on different words. Now this is one element of non-verbal communication which is supposed to be a little controversial. When you talk of silence, silence is defined as the absence of words, according to some. For a dumb and deaf person, for example, everything is silent. There is no concept of sound. In spite of that, while speaking, the pause that you take in between the two words or in between the two sentences also decides the effect. Think of Amitabh Bachchan when he is giving his dialogues, the dialogue delivery, the kind of pauses which he takes. I don't know if you have ever thought about it carefully. If not, go to the YouTube and look at Amitabh Bachchan's dialogues and then you know what I am saying. Or any other good actor, just known examples, so I took Amitabh Bachchan ji. So you will find the way the pauses are taken many times give the impact of the words. Okay. Also, the very basic use of silence also could be when you don't answer at all anything. Something is asked to you and you remain silent. Okay, so that is very risky actually because there can be so many meanings derived of that silence. I may feel you are dumb, you don't understand anything. If you are a little considerate, I will say, okay, no, they are shy, they know the answer but they don't speak out. Okay, so there will be various interpretations, but nonetheless it is very true that we do use silence even within the verbal communication. Okay, this already we have talked about facial expressions and postures. Thank you very much for attending the lecture, and I hope it was useful.
Yes.
Thank you.